Welcome to Live Breathe Film, episode 87. You're here with Corey, Doug, and Murph. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're just going to talk about the midsummer box office and where things stand before Barbenheimer weekend officially kicks off. So, if you've been paying attention this summer to the box office and our box office pool that we've got going on, there's been a lot of, I would say, disappointments. From franchise fare in particular, long-running franchises. This goes back to weekend one of this summer, where Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 had a debut that was far below, or it was below what we were all expecting. It was somewhere in between Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. It ultimately rebounded and had a very solid performance. So something that is important to note is that quality and word of mouth do make a difference. You don't have to have like a absolutely blockbuster debut to end up with blockbuster numbers. Right now, it is it is our number 2 movie of the summer, right below Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which is only the second entry in that series, and again is one of the highest rated movies of the entire summer. On Rotten Tomatoes and word of mouth and everything like that. But outside of those two films, we've had a bunch of disappointments. We've had Fast 10, which is, other than the first 3 films in the franchise, it's the lowest domestically, lowest grossing. If you adjust for inflation, the only one that is higher is Tokyo Drift, or the only one that is lower is Tokyo Drift. We've had Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny, the most recent one that we'll be talking about, far and away the lowest grossing, adjusting for inflation, and likely even not adjusting for inflation. This was one where it followed up not beloved film 15 years ago, Crystal Skull, where that may have played a part. Again, with Fast 10, you have one that's followed a few that people haven't really loved after Paul Walker had unfortunately passed and had to leave the series. Then we've had The Flash, which is just the latest DCEU bomb. This is about, 4 in a row for the DCEU that has really kind of stunk it up after Black Adam, Shazam, I guess the Suicide Squad. Things aren't going well in that franchise, but it will be rebooted soon. And then we've had some hits. Insidious is the 5th film in that franchise, and it's performed well. If you discount the prequels, it's really the 3rd entry in the series for many people. When it comes to continuity, and it's performed well. It's a horror movie. Horror movies perform well. Traditionally, it's been like the one genre that's you can pretty much always count on to make a decent amount of money. Not blockbuster like 100 million plus always, but it's going to be reliable. And now, we have Pixar, another brand that stunk it up on its opening weekend, outside of its first film ever, Toy Story. It was the lowest opening, but it's since then rebounded, having some awesome holds. That's not Rotten Tomato based, but strictly based on cinema scores and word of mouth. It's already topped 3 of its films, Onward, The Good Dinosaur, and what was the other one? Lightyear, which 2 of those you wouldn't have expected after its opening weekend, and now it's likely going to top Cars 3 as well. So, again,
it's been leggy as hell.
Yeah, if you're a good film, you can rebound from a really disappointing opening. At least if people, like the audiences, enjoy it. Indiana Jones ended up with a B+ cinema score, so that really didn't get legs that you would have hoped for, or I would have hoped for, since I picked it in the draft after the fact.
Elemental opened at 29.6 million. It's currently at 128. I mean,
It's very good.
that's very leggy.
Yeah, it
It
in
came out, what, 5 weeks ago?
yeah, something like that. Five
That
came
sounds
out the same
about
week
right.
as it came out the same week as the Flash. It opened to 20 million
Yeah,
less than the
yeah.
Flash, and the Flash made less than a million this past weekend. Um,
Oh
and is
my God.
basically out of theaters. The Flash is not top Batman and Robin, Watchmen, Green Lantern, like going to movies prior to the DCU that were like mega disappointments. Um,
Yeah, I still don't understand that one and how it flopped as hard, but
yeah, I mean, The Flash was just something that it's like they threw it out, they marketed the hell out of it, and everyone just sort of was like, "No, I'm good, I'll pass." Um,
I
the
think it was a
reviews
lot of
were
reasons.
okay. There's it's kind of similar to Indiana Jones in both the reviews and the cinema score. I think Indiana Jones had a B plus versus a B cinema score for The Flash, if I'm not mistaken. But the Rotten Tomatoes scores are pretty similar. Except The Flash had a ton of hype going into it, with everyone saying it was going to be amazing. While Indiana Jones had, similarly to Elemental, had like the Cannes effect, where everyone was going in with this negative word of mouth, which definitely
yeah.
hurt it, and it just never recovered. Um, the Little Mermaid was one that was a pretty big hit. I don't didn't get reach the heights of some of their other live action adaptations. None of the ones from the '90s. Mulan never opened in theaters domestically, so we can't compare that one. But it's going to end up about 50 million shy of Aladdin, 200 million shy, 200 plus million shy Beauty and the Beast, 300 plus million shy of The Lion King. But it did perform better than Maleficent, Cinderella, a lot of their like older um, live
And
action remakes.
it might like it out to 300, which is decent.
Yeah,
I mean
now
that
when I'm
considering
talking
like what
about
it
it,
opened
I'm
at.
basically saying 300 million. Um,
Yeah, I mean that's another one that kind of has just stuck around.
yeah, I mean, I had
It's
one
just like
weekend that dropped like 20% or 18%. I was like, oh shit. Um, but yeah, Disney should be able to get it right to 300 million, um, which is totally solid. Um, just it didn't perform well worldwide. Another one of those movies. And another thing with all these movies is they all cost an insane amount, um, with COVID starts and stops and COVID protocols and other various things. Budgets being way higher than they were prior to COVID for a lot of these films. I don't know if inflation is also uh, playing a part in these costs being higher. It'll be interesting to see how that goes moving forward, particularly in like next summer or once this SAG strike and writer's strike ends and the next crop of films start to get budgeted out and produced. Other than that, we've got the latest film, the Mission Impossible franchise, just opened this past weekend. It had the highest 5 day opening in the franchise's history, slightly higher than Mission Impossible 2. I mean, this is a franchise that is very consistent in when it opens or how much it makes its opening weekend. It just depends on if they do the 3 day or the 5 day opening. They've employed the 5 day opening three times throughout its history, and they were the first two, and then this latest. So it's really tough to do a comparison because that's 20 plus years of inflation. So these films are significantly smaller than they were back in the day, but they're grossing similar numbers always. Um,
yeah,
it,
I saw something, I don't know if you saw it too, where they were saying like with inflation, it was actually the lowest opening of all the Mission Impossibles.
for the 3 day, I'm assuming you're talking about.
I don't know if it was the 3 day or for the 5 day. I think it must have been, I guess, the 3 day because
It's
it sounds like the
probably
5 day would have been difficult.
yeah, it's probably the 3 day. Because people that would have gone and saw the movie likely on Tuesday night, Wednesday, and Thursday would have saw it over the weekend, and instead it's spread out over that time frame. Um,
And it underperformed studio expectations by like 10 million, right? It
it
was
did.
like 80 instead of 90 or something.
It did. It underperformed the expectations originally, and then overperformed based on how it did on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday period. At that point, they were assuming it was going to make 70 million for the 5 day, and it ended up making 80. So made right in the middle. But it's a franchise that never opens extremely high, so it'll be interesting to see how this one holds, because this one, unlike or like some of the ones we've talked about, some of the films we've talked about that have legged out, it has amazing reviews and amazing word of mouth.
It's
So-
just got
I was shocked when we saw it. The theater was really full.
Yeah, I mean, both times I saw it,
Packed.
the theater was packed.
what sucks is, and I kind of question. I mean, we'll see. I guess maybe it will surpass it, but it's kind of got this challenge now of the Barbenheimer, coming this weekend. We've talked about it before, but Oppenheimer's taking all the premium screen, or I guess most of them. I don't know that they're taking all of them now.
Barbie's getting some too. The Barbie's getting like
Okay.
the Dolby side, a bunch of them, and Oppenheimer's getting like all the IMAX and
Okay, so a lot of the premium
There's other
screens are off the table. This like a week after it opens, and then Barbenheimer is getting a lot of the talk, at least now. I mean, how do you think that's gonna? Do you think Mission Impossible can still keep trucking, or do you think like Barbenheimer takes all the oxygen out of the room and it struggles? I mean, how do you see that playing out?
I see it taking the oxygen out this weekend, primarily by losing the premium screens. Anytime a movie loses its premium screens, it always has a larger fall than on weekends where it doesn't. Typically, you see it for a lot of these big movies. There's typically people don't put out a huge film the following weekend, so you see that big drop on weekend 3. I think we'll see a pretty substantial drop this coming weekend, but then it should hold from that point forward, once the Barbenheimer hype dies down, because ultimately these are 3 very different films. I mean, from everything I'm hearing about Oppenheimer, it's a men room talking film. Everything I hear about Barbie is it's a feminist, fun comedy type of film. And as Corey and I saw Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, we actually saw a test screening months ago. It is just an action-packed adventure film, all about its set pieces. So I do think they can all coexist with adult audiences throughout the back half of the summer, because really there's nothing, based on the movies we drafted, there is nothing for adults that I think has any real interest outside of genre films that will pick up a little bit of cash until The Equalizer 3, which is Labor Day weekend. Everything else is sort of skewing on the younger side or the teen side or like the millennial side, while older audiences typically don't rush out opening weekend. But I mean, one thing that I do want to note is like these theaters, we've mentioned it before, these theaters have to invest in more premium screens.
They do.
Like we're just seeing it more and more that the like percentage that goes into the amount of people seeing it in a premium one versus a normal screen, especially on opening weekend, is just getting larger and larger, like with premium just overwhelmingly being the favorite. And they would make the theaters more money, it would make the studios more money, and these movies would do better in the long term if they don't have to get pushed out after one weekend or 2 weekends.
Especially now with AMC, I feel like most moviegoers, I'd like to see the numbers, but I feel like most moviegoers have Stubs, Premiere, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, no,
A-list.
that's a great point. Anyone that does have one of those,
You're gonna go.
is going to choose the premium screen.
Yeah, does make a difference.
Because the value is just there. A ticket's like $10 more, and yet you're not paying $10 more. So I think that's something that has to be done. But I'm expecting Mission Impossible to ultimately make 200 million plus. I don't know how high it's going to go. was certainly hoping for some sort of a Top Gun like get more young people into the theater to see this 27-year-old franchise. But I don't necessarily think that is going to be the case. So it just needs to
Yeah.
rely on the older audiences that it always has relied on to always get over 200 million, with the exception being Mission Impossible 3 when Tom Cruise's career was in a complete PR nosedive. I believe Rogue Nation might have been 9 million short, which by this point, adjusted for inflation, it's over 200 million. And Mission Impossible 1, which was like 170 something million, and it is now like 300 plus 400 plus million with inflation. So I'm not worried about its long-term prospects. Definitely cost a ton because it was one of the biggest films that had COVID production issues. I mean, this was the one where we all heard about Tom Cruise flipping out on set, about people breaking protocols. Like its biggest set pieces, one of its biggest set pieces was filmed in Italy, where COVID was an absolute nightmare. So
Were there like there was like some cruise, there was some like boat situation where everyone had to be on the boat? Wasn't that Top Gun or not Top Gun? Mission Impossible.
I'm not sure. I mean, there's a scene in a submarine. Are you referring to a scene in the film or something?
No, there was some sort of like weird COVID protocol.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. That might have been it. I could picture them all having to do that. I know they were all like in the same quarters while filming, and all bonded really well because of that. But ultimately, it's the seventh film in a series, so shouldn't be shocked that it didn't just have a massive jump or anything like that. Would I have liked it to see a little bit more money based on the quality and everything like that? Absolutely. But I think it should leg out. And ultimately, I think it can survive with Barbie and Oppenheimer. But I guess we could talk the second half of the summer. What are our expectations for Barbie and Oppenheimer after seeing the reviews that are currently coming out? Barbie's in the high 80s on Rotten Tomatoes. Oppenheimer's in the low 90s. While we're hearing tons of people saying that Oppenheimer is Christopher Nolan's best film. And then we're seeing tons of excitement for Barbie. Like, I'm fully expecting Barbie to make twice as much as Oppenheimer opening weekend.
Oh yeah,
I
100%.
think it's going to have a huge opening at this point.
It's going to be Minions where everyone's like dressing up and like making it. It's going to be like an event.
It's an event. I don't know how high this thing could go. I mean, there's a world where I could see it getting as high as 150 million this weekend. I don't know if it will have any sort of legs after, which is ironic because Barbie has really long legs. But like, I don't see it performing like a Mario Brothers or a Top Gun or something like that in the long run, where it ends up making 500, 600, 700 million dollars.
I thought 3.
I think if
there's a ceiling for that one.
Yeah, that even seems too high, but maybe I'm undercutting.
I'm not gonna go that low, just because I mean, if it has such a massive opening, it would have to completely collapse not to hit 300 million.
Yeah, that's true.
I would be on more of the 400 million side of things.
I was thinking like around like what Guardians did. That's where I was, but I didn't know. I don't know.
Around 350, 360
yeah.
million.
That seems too high. I think if it has a big opening, it all depends on the
opening. It all depends on the opening.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say like low 200s maybe for Barbie.
For its total, low 200s.
Total.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not.
So you're not expecting. You're not expecting a massive opening weekend.
Maybe like 80.
Okay.
I just don't think it's gonna.
And you're predicting it. So you're thinking 40 for Oppenheimer, 80 for Barbie. Like around in that ballpark.
Yeah, I could see Oppenheimer maybe overperforming a little bit. I haven't done my check the theater in my area to see how well tickets are selling. Yeah,
I have done for both. I haven't looked like normal theaters for Oppenheimer, but the IMAX and 70 millimeter are crazy. Like you don't
Sure.
see too many
Yeah.
people, which is what you
Yeah. I bet.
should expect.
Yeah, that's
The
Barbie is
question.
looking nuts so far in anything I'm looking at, like normal theaters or Dolby.
it's a completely different crowd too. I think
And
like
yeah, AMC's talking about 40,000 people are going to be doing a Barbenheimer double feature based on people that have bought in tickets, something like that. But
which I
yeah,
was
like you would think it's a completely different crowd, but it's become this fucking online like thing that has
movement.
become
Yeah.
its own entity. Um,
Yeah, it's gotten like it's being talked about a lot
Very
socially,
viral.
and
and
so
it
that's
and
made
like
it.
it's like a natural viral thing too. It wasn't like a studio concocted thing. Like
It's not
No.
the Flash where like Warner Brother or like what was it when Sony was trying to get like Morbin
yeah,
time?
exactly.
Yeah.
Nolan won't even fucking like acknowledge Barbie.
Yeah, I
So
know.
like
He
this isn't a thing that Warner Brothers and Universal are teaming on together. Um, you could tell Nolan is not happy with Warner Brothers, um, and they're never gonna work together if like they continue going down the route they're on now. And at
So
one point I thought they would, but I'm starting to not think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think I told you this, Murph, when someone mentioned in an interview to him, like, did you see Barbie yet? And he was just like stone face. No.
Yeah, like I'm seeing cast members of Oppenheimer being like all about it and being like, well, yeah, getting people to the movies. I mean, you're seeing Tom Cruise; he's the fucking biggest advocate of anyone going to the movies this summer. Um, the guy's so out of his mind. He was trying to do negotiations between SAG and like the producers, where actors can promote their films, which completely negates the entire purpose of this strike.
Oh my
Um,
God.
because he cares so much about the theatrical experience and is worried that this only a couple years after COVID is just going to kill it. Um, which I don't see that happening. I don't think people care as much about
No.
press interviews and red carpets interviews as they do just seeing trailers and just online things in your face, from studios. Like I think this is going to hurt the PR machine more than it's going to hurt anyone else. We'll
Hmm.
see. Could be wrong. But as
so
somebody
I take
who works in marketing, you shove something in front of someone's face 10 times, they're going to be interested like in making a purchase.
Hmm.
Like the more you get something in front of someone, the more likely they are to purchase it. As long as they keep putting out ads for shit, people are going to see stuff. We're not going to get the fun late night stuff that we've been getting or red carpets for a little bit, but I don't think it's as big as a deal as Tom Cruise or some of these other people think it is. I don't know.
And plus, with this movement, it's only helping both movies.
Yeah, totally.
He won't agree. He won't admit to it, but it is.
Doug, you were going to say something?
yeah, I just did my theater check on my local theater. I'm completely way off on my feeling of Barbie. I've realized
All right.
they've given like all the screens to Barbie, and they're selling a lot of the seats. So
It's-
you're probably talking like it might be like 150.
I think it's possible, but I thought at least.
I mean, this looks like a huge weekend from what I'm
Yes.
seeing right now.
Like a monster.
Yeah,
I haven't seen any.
I still think it's gonna go off
I haven't
a
seen
cliff.
anything higher than 130 has been the highest thing I've seen, but
They're wrong.
I think
It's gonna be
150.
it's gonna definitely overperform. This is gonna be Spider-Verse all over again, where they just like they don't have their finger completely on the pulse on this one. Although I think 130 is.
No, I don't see this movie just falling off a cliff. I don't know if it'll do that, like 130 to 150, but I think it's gonna have legs.
I think it's
I-
100% gonna be at least 150.
But I do think it's going to alienate a lot of the audience, and people are going to find that out after this weekend. That I've heard that Warner Brothers, Mattel have done like expert marketing of showing what this film like really is.
Okay.
And there's going to be a lot of think pieces coming out on Monday, and we'll see how that impacts weekend too.
Yeah, it either
But
gets people to come out, or it gets people to like curious, or it gets people like pissed and they
yeah,
don't want to go see it.
that's why I'm thinking for like 400 million, like was what I was thinking for its total, because I think it's going to have such a huge opening weekend that it's not going to be possible for it to make like less than a certain amount of money. Oppenheimer, on the other hand, I
There's interest. It doesn't seem like anywhere near as high as Barbie.
yeah, I mean, I think it'll be one of Nolan's lower grossing films. It's going to obviously top 10 it because of COVID. Still, in another world, I really wonder what that film would have done.
I don't think it would have done as well as you think it would have done. I mean, that movie's like not great in my
I mean,
opinion.
it did very well worldwide
What,
during
Tenant?
during COVID. It made over 300 million. Um,
I like Tenant.
so, I mean, I'm not like the biggest Tenet fan in the world. We all did our top 10 Nolan list or top 11 Nolan list fairly recently. Tenet was
That might be like one of the worst.
on my back
Nolan,
half.
that might be
Um,
like one of my least favorite Nolan
I
movies.
I don't know how, like
Yeah, I mean,
Dunkirk.
Doesn't make any
Dunkirk
sense.
is my least
Yeah.
is bottom for me, which is nice that Oppenheimer is supposed to be such a fucking great rebound because those are his last two films, Tenet and Oppenheimer, or Tenet and Dunkirk.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't see Oppenheimer make like I think it'll probably make like 150 million total.
Yeah.
But I mean,
That sounds about right.
it could be
Could do a
it
little
could be
better.
less. Could be a little more. Could be a little less. It will
Yeah,
be
I could see a
interesting.
world where it creeps closer to 200, but
It'll
maybe
be
just
interesting to see how many of like the Nolan heads like are running out weekend one and how that impacts its long term run. I mean, we do know it has the IMAX theaters like locked down for weeks. It's got plenty of different ways to get theater upcharges for tickets, but yeah, I don't know. Certainly can be exciting to see. I mean, I'm just hyped that it's supposed to be as good as it is. Um, like they're talking, obviously already they're talking best picture, best director, actor, supporting actor for Downey Jr. Like in the running for all of those awards. Um, but yeah, we'll know after this weekend. One film, I guess we should certainly talk about. Oh, the only other movie that has come out that any of us drafted that since our last episode, I believe, was Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. That one just, I don't know why it did the numbers it did, but that's like a,
Huge
what does it
so
have
weird.
now? Does it even have 20 million at this point? Yeah,
It's already
opening
done
weekend.
VOD.
Its opening weekend was under 10 million.
yeah, I thought for sure that movie would be bigger.
Me too.
I don't know if it was the name of the movie or what.
The
But yeah,
marketing
no
was
one.
there was no marketing. I didn't see anything. I mean, not the target audience, but still,
Yeah,
I didn't
but
really hear it.
It hasn't. It's about at 15 million now. So it's not even going to make 20 million total.
And I thought the reviews were actually that it was a pretty solid movie.
Yeah, I don't think the reviews were that bad. They weren't like great or anything. I think it was on like, it was okay ratings, but
It got an A- cinema score according to Reddit.
okay. This doesn't help when so few people see it. That they can't. The word of mouth can only spread so far when so few people see something.
Yeah, but it wasn't because it wasn't a good movie. It was just, yeah, I don't know what happened. I still think it's the name. I think
It's
you
got
like
66 Rotten Tomatoes, 81 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. You think it's
Yeah.
the name?
I don't think we're like Ruby Gillman, comma Teenage Kraken is like the right name.
I'm always opposed to people using a name in a title if it's not an established property.
Right. Because
Because
it's like, who the hell's Ruby Gillman? Like, it doesn't
Exactly.
get across like anything.
it's so fucking stupid when movies do that. Pixar's movie next year, their next original is titled based after the kid. I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, how is this going to generate any excitement? Um, but whatever. Disney does Disney. Um, some other movies of the R-rated comedies. No Hard Feelings. That one's legging it out to over 50 million. Joyride, unfortunately, which I thought was far superior to No Hard Feelings, only has 10 million at the moment.
Yeah, that was surprising because
only makes like 15 or so.
we both regret, or we all regretted after the fact not drafting it, and then it turned out like it seemed like everyone responded really well to it. I'm not really sure why, other than it seems like it's very difficult for comedies to do well.
Yeah, because yes, a movie like No Hard Feelings would have made over 100 million 10 years ago, maybe even 5-6 years ago. And Joyride would have absolutely made more money as well. But for whatever reason, people don't like going to see comedies in theaters anymore, which sucks because they're one of the best movies to see with a large crowd. I touched upon Insidious before, but that's looking like it's going to be the highest grossing unadjusted or second highest grossing unadjusted in the franchise. It's currently at 58 million. It'll definitely top the last key, which was 67 million. And chapter 2 is the only one higher with 83 million. Probably won't get to 83, but
I don't think so.
Yeah, it seems to be performing like a horror movie. Like it dropped. I think it had like a 70-something% drop, which is pretty standard.
Yeah. And then we have Transformers, which another long-running franchise. Actually, when you look at it based just domestically, you're like, oh, that actually like did pretty well. But then when you look, it's got 152 million. Like the fact that Indiana Jones hasn't topped that yet is fucking shocking to me. It will, but it's crazy that it took this long. So nice little rebound domestically for Rise of the Beasts, for the Transformers franchise, but worldwide it's like it's fucking shot.
It's crazy no one saw it.
Yeah, like this series just is not performing well. I'm trying to pull up the numbers for
they were always monsters when they would release.
Yeah, overseas. I mean worldwide, it's at 420 million. The next two in line would be Bumblebee, which had 468, and then The Last Night, which had 605. After that, they're all above 700 million. Two of them are above $1 billion. So, as far as our pool was only domestic, so this was a great pickup for you, Doug. But this series is certainly not back, and they should not be Paramount should not be investing crazy amounts of money in it moving forward, because this one ain't going to be profitable worldwide. And then one film that none of us drafted that got mentioned is Sound of Freedom. This thing is at 85 million so far, and seemingly is
so crazy.
It's gonna make like a fucking, I don't know, 200 million bucks. This past weekend it
went up, right?
It jumped 38% from its previous weekend. I don't know what the fuck is going on with this movie. It nearly topped Mission Impossible on Monday and Tuesday, and it's like daily box office numbers. I don't know. I haven't heard of anyone who's seen it, but it's fucking doing numbers somehow. We didn't have it on the list of movies even eligible to draft because I was like, well, what am I going to put every single movie? Like, we're going to be talking for like an hour of just what all these movies are. I'm like, this has zero shot of making it into like even a top 30 list, top 30, 40 list of the summer. Jim Caviezel, but in a non-studio film, but it's making a fuck ton of money. So well done, film. You're going to absolutely crack the top 10 for summer movies this year. I don't know how high it can go. Um,
It's already at 96.
yeah, I was looking at Sunday. Um, yeah, it's made
It's
like
gonna
10.
easily top 100,
Oh,
and
it's fucking
yeah,
gonna. It's. I'm thinking it's gonna make 200 million plus at this point. Because it's not dropping at all any days. Like it's just increasing the amount of money it makes on a daily basis.
it made
Um,
5 million yesterday.
yeah, like it
That's
nearly topped
wild.
Mission Impossible. Like it's fucking insane. It topped Indiana Jones on July 4th. On Indiana Jones's like big 5-day opening weekend. It.
Yeah,
I
this
don't
is
know.
a
We're just
yeah.
gonna have to. I'm like I said to you guys. I'm just gonna throw every movie moving forward on that comes out, and like I won't give any sort of sarcastic comments. Like people take what they want to take. I thought it would be cruel and unusual for me to put this on the list and someone potentially take it. I don't think either of you would have taken it.
I wouldn't
Um,
have, and I would have laughed so hard if one of you guys took it.
okay. And Corey said via text, yeah, I definitely wasn't going to take it either. So we're all on the same page there.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
but
Yeah, I would have been like, "Oh well, like, thanks for the free,
yeah,
the free pick,
this is
idiot."
this is the second pool in a row where a faith-based film has cracked the top like 24 picks, and we didn't pick it. This time, didn't even include it. Jesus Revolution did make it in the last one. None of us drafted that one for the Winter Spring box office, and now Sound of Freedom, which is I don't
I
know
don't think this one
exactly
is
understand.
faith based.
No, it is. They're saying it's faith based.
What?
At least that's what's going into its marketing. Um, I don't
It's
fully. I don't want to get too
the
deep into this movie.
yeah. I don't think we need to, but the sentence is the incredible true story of a former government agent turned vigilante who embarks on a dangerous mission to rescue hundreds of children from sex
Yes,
traffickers.
That's why
yes,
I was
yes.
confused initially.
How? Where's the faith in that?
He's very religious. This
Okay.
guy. Watch the trailer. You'll get a little
Okay,
more
that makes
what
sense.
I'm
All right.
saying.
I was
Um,
just like, doesn't sound like the yeah, the other
like
one's a little bit more on its face, but
was put out by Angel Studios to give you an idea of the fact that
okay.
it's faith based. They're using some sort of pay it forward scenario where you can buy tickets for other people, like basically throw down donations. I
That's
don't know.
smart.
It's an interesting tactic. It's kind of like what Passion of the Christ and other movies did back in the day, where they do large like church groups going all at once. It's kind of like the next evolution in that. Um, I've also been seeing conspiracy theories of people being like on both sides. Like, I'm looking in this Sound of Freedom screening and it says sold out, and yet there's no one in the theater. That's weird. And then I'm seeing other people saying the same thing, but saying, so basically, people are trying to keep me from seeing Sound of Freedom by saying it's sold out, but it's not. But like the theater's empty. They just don't want me to see this film.
Interesting.
It's bonkers, like the whole discussion about this film. We have to talk about it, even though none of us drafted it, because it is going to make a ton of money. Um, I just don't know
Yeah, that
where exactly it's coming from, and I don't know.
this is definitely
Yeah, go.
this is definitely the surprise of the summer. I mean,
Yes, it is. It's a mini Top
can
Gun
you think of
Maverick.
a yeah, I mean, can you think of a time a movie can you think of a movie to compare this to?
The only one I can think of is My Big Fat Greek Wedding, but that took nearly like a year to make to make $200 million. It was like a slow, just slow and consistent. This one is just like came out of nowhere like a torpedo. So no, I can't think of one off the top of my head. Where it just was not on anyone's radar. And just
Very interesting.
made tons of money right away. And it's got pretty good fucking reviews too. Granted, critics generally aren't seeing it. It's got 74%, but only 38 reviews, which basically
I
shows that no one like critics are just refusing to see this film. But it's got a
I actually
100%
heard
audience score.
that they're not sending out screeners to critics.
Okay, they're making it difficult for people to say. But like the legit, I did see like one like legit critic, one who used to do right for Entertainment Weekly, and like he gave it a very good review. But overall, okay, there's six top critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Sorry, one, two, three, four, five. Yes, six top critics that have reviewed it. Two positive, four negative. So it will likely go down a lot if it was widely seen. Um,
I don't think it's going to matter though, because that's not what's getting people out. I
no, no,
don't
it wouldn't
think.
matter
I
money
don't.
wise. I'm just saying, like, because I was talking about how it's got good reviews. I don't necessarily know, like, if it is that good a movie, because we're not getting like a full like barometer of the types of people of like people seeing this film. Like typically, we have 200 plus people seeing films and reviewing them, critics on Rotten Tomatoes, while this one has 40 and barely any top critics. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it was originally going to be like a like come out from a real studio, not a real studio, but like a studio with a known name. But
I
then
heard
like
Disney sold it.
yes, that's it, Disney. Um, I don't know if they sold it after the Fox acquisition and just being like this is just isn't part of our brand, or if it had
I'm
something.
assuming it was part of the Fox acquisition, is
Okay.
what I thought.
Um, I'm
The
assuming they also
producers.
wouldn't want to do business with Jim Caviezel because he's a controversial figure with QAnon and things like that. Um,
Yeah, I mean, this article is saying that 20th Century Fox produced it, and it wrapped production in 2018 to be released in 2019, and then Disney acquired it, and then I guess got sold it
gotcha.
probably for like peanuts.
Yeah, probably. Um, but yeah, that's where we're at. So just to recap where we're at for our box office pool for each of us and what movies we've got coming up. At the moment, this is all based on box office at the end of Sunday, based on where estimates were on Sunday. Um, Corey, you're in third with 595 million. This is off the backs of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Book Club The Next Chapter, Fast 10, Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, and Insidious The Red Door. Um, so Guardians was a great pickup at number 2. When I passed on it, I shouldn't have done that. You have 3 films left. You've got Barbie, which we all think is going to be a monster. Talk to Me, the A24 horror movie, and Meg 2, The Trench. Um, I am currently in second place with 641 million as of the end of this past weekend, off of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, No Hard Feelings, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. And I still have on deck Haunted Mansion, Blue Beetle, Strays, and The Equalizer 3. And Doug, you are still in first with 679. I was hoping to reach you before Barbenheimer weekend, but I am short of that. And that is off of The Little Mermaid, Transformers: Rise of the Beast, Elemental, and The Flash. So despite The Flash utterly bombing, all of your films have grossed over 100 million, and Elemental having that piss poor opening weekend. You're having the most consistent, I guess you can say, or nothing is really
Yeah, that's the only
outright.
thing that's keeping me in it right now is the fact that my other movies are performing
Yeah,
because Flash bombing really like sucked. I really needed at least another 100 million out of the Flash.
yeah. It didn't help that none of us, all three of us, botched one of our first 2 picks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Doug, you botching Flash, me botching Indy, Corey botching Fast 10. Um, but you still
You,
have yes.
I was just gonna say you botched it the least though, because Indy's gonna still be like a $200 million film.
It should make close. I don't think it's going to cross it, but it should be fairly close to it. I just botched it because I had the number 1 pick. Had I taken Guardians, this thing probably would have been over. Um,
Yeah.
but you still have Oppenheimer. Although if I took Guardians, God knows how the draft would have actually gone. Um, Doug, you still have Oppenheimer, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Gran Turismo, and The Last Voyage of the Demeter. So we're all within $100 million as of now before Barbenheimer weekend kicks off. Um, Again, Corey should have a monster weekend with Barbie. Doug, you should have a very strong weekend with Oppenheimer. And I'm hoping I have a solid hold with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Um, if all those things happen, this is going to be an interesting remainder of the summer. Because I could see a situation where your 4 movies, Doug, my 4 movies, plus Mission Impossible being only 1 week in, and Corey's 3 movies all ending up in a situation where they make similar amounts of money. We're all in a situation where there are movies that have come out already are in similar situations. So this is gonna be, I think it's gonna be really tight and come down to maybe mid-September. We might not have a winner Labor Day weekend. We might have to wait it out and go into our fall box office pool talking about the Nun 2 and shit that is coming out in September while we're still waiting to find out a winner for our summer draft.
That'll be awesome. That'll be a really good summer pool.
Yeah, it'll be different than one we've ever
We
done.
haven't had we've never had one that's this close before.
Yeah, where all participants are this close and where it can go on past the release dates of any of them and the end of the actual season. So yeah, I guess kudos to all of us for keeping it close. Unfortunately for the box office, it's not the best of situations, but hopefully the second half of the summer should see a rebound. And I think we will, despite the SAG strike, because of movies like Barbie and Oppenheimer, movies that people are genuinely excited for, more originals and less long in the tooth franchise fare.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Any closing words from either of you?
I just hope that Oppenheimer does decently well this weekend.
I need to figure out how I'm going to see Barbie this weekend. I got to at least see it.
Yes. There's
Is Lincoln Square not doing like a Barbenheimer?
Lincoln Square is like Barbie's like sold out. Like at times that would be convenient to do a Barbenheimer double feature. There'd have to be a gap in between. But we'll see what ends up happening this weekend. But I'm definitely going to try to see both before our next episode, Doug. I know it's going to be tough for you to see any movies before our next episode, but yeah, we'd like to get into talking more about the quality of Mission Impossible and then Oppenheimer and Barbie in the weeks to come. We could touch upon India at some point. I think anything prior to that we've already talked about. So that's all we've got for today. Thank you again for listening. Please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple, etc. But I know we talked about last time that we were going to do our yearly film series for 2022, but we will push that back for another week or so. And as always, this has been Corey, Doug, and Murph at Liberty Film. We'll see you again next time, film fans.
Bye.